From vinyl music sounds to lively verbal go-arounds.
This is Into The Runout.
Welcome, listeners and viewers from around the internet, and all who know us and all who are just coming to know us. This is our new podcast, and I am Tony, and to my right is John.
The one and only.
Yes.
The one and only.
Absolutely the one and only. Thank God. I know people my mom used to say to me as a kid, it's like, no, child, thank God there's only one of you. The world couldn't handle two.
I'm sure that holds true for me too.
Right? You know, mom would also say, yeah, God broke the mold when he made you.
Yep. I've heard that many times myself.
Yeah.
You're not the only one.
I'd like to think they were said with affection, but at the time.
Well, being a parent, your kids can be a little agitating at times.
Oh, yes, just a little. I don't know how my brother and I made it out of our childhood.
You can love them. You can love them and squeeze them till their heads pop off, or you could just squeeze their heads off. One of the two.
Yeah, I mean, there are options. Thankfully, my parents chose the former, not the latter.
Yes. Yep.
Though I still love Bill Cosby's, story. It's like, my father established our relationship when I was 7 years old. He said, I brought you into this world. I can take you out. And it doesn't matter because I'll make another look just like you.
On my recent, like we talked about in a previous episode about my garage sale excursions, I acquired some albums, and I think I got about 4 or 5 Bill Cosby comedy albums in that mix. I haven't listened to them yet, but
I hope you have the one that has the invention of basketball.
I believe I do.
Oh, God, it's hysterical. It's like Dr. Naismith learns how to come up with a game of basketball with Willie the janitor.
I haven't heard it.
It's like, Willie, you stand between me and this can and stop me from putting the ball in that can. He said, uh-huh. I said, I want to put the ball in the can. Willie hit me in the face with the broom. Willie, clean me out.
I don't think you can use a broom in the NBA, but I could be mistaken. I've used a broom playing basketball before. A broomstick anyway. Sometimes the ball gets jammed behind the rim in the backboard. You gotta poke it up.
Because neither one of us were high enough to go and
no, my vertical's about like that. So
mine is more like yeah.
We could probably do an episode on our basketball days back in high school, because you had the old backboard and rim up on top of the garage.
Sure did.
At the old house, and I don't remember. I believe you were a gunner, if people know that term.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was a gunner for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Take it and shoot it.
For those of you that don't know, you're a shooter. You're not driving the lane, and I mean, occasionally maybe driving the lane, laying up, but you're not attacking the hoop. You're staying outside and shooting at 3-pointers.
Yeah, or at least a safer 2-pointer. But yeah, I mean, when I played 2-on-2 ball with some of our classmates from high school, I learned that you had to, sometimes, take it inside the paint and do some penetrating. But
right.
Whew,
I know some of our
took a lot of work.
I know some of our high school friends that played basketball with you, especially, and me sometimes, subscribe to the show. So,
cool.
And I've seen them subscribe recently, so we know who you are. We're not going to mention you, but we know who you are. So encourage our other fellow gunners and bricklayers and everybody to subscribe and listen to us. And maybe we'll talk about you guys every once in a while.
Oh yeah, for those who are from the Chicagoland area, there's a neighborhood that was a little bit beyond the one that you grew up in, John, called Hegwish, and yep. I used to play with some of our classmates at a field.
Was that at Man Park?
Man Park, and
yep.
You want to talk about a bricklayer? There was one game where I think I was like 2 for 32 from the floor, and we still managed to win because my teammates pretty much carried the load and dragged my sorry rear end all the way to victory. It was the most infamous shooting day of my life. I felt about this tall, and I said, I don't think I want to play another game of basketball again.
We have a mutual friend that we went to high school with, and again, I won't mention his name because I like to ask them before I can talk about him on the show.
Yeah.
But we played at Man Park quite often because he did live in Hegwish.
Nice.
Went to high school with us, and you might know who I'm talking about. But we would go to Man Park, just the two of us, and purposely look for a game of 4-on-2 or even 5-on-2. Like,
Yeah.
we would always take on more player. It would just be the two of us against, 3, 4, or 5 other people.
Wow.
We preferred it that way. I'm not saying we were that good, but we preferred it that way because we could work that good together and know wherever each other was going and pass. And sometimes the number games work the opposite, because if you had too many people playing against 2 people, it's, they don't know how to defend it. You can't,
Right?
it throws you off. Let's just put
Yeah.
it that way. So sometimes you could create holes without even trying because they had too many people and they were bumping into each other.
Oh my God. I love it.
It was always fun. And we still talk about it from time to time. And we're like, we're in our 50s now. So we're like, let's go there and get one more game in, and a couple 50-year-olds playing some 20-year-olds and see if we can still do it. But yeah, those were the good old days.
You better take out an extra insurance policy in the event that you try to do that, because they don't play fair today.
No, they don't. They don't. But I could always pull a LeBron and just fall down and cry too.
That's true. Flop your way to sympathy.
But if you do that on the playground, they'll just kick you or laugh at you or something.
Exactly.
So that doesn't work on the playground.
Nope, it doesn't.
And we could talk about basketball forever, but we got to move on.
We sure could. But to the business at hand, we have this wonderful forum where we get to talk about our favorite music, and hopefully, we can, these podcasts will inspire you and motivate you to seek out that music. But, while we're talking about this, before we actually get into the meat of what we want to talk about today, I just thought of something we've been discussing off and on since we kicked off this podcast. There is this little thing called the title of our podcast that we never actually articulated, and the idea came directly from the mind of John. So would you please articulate, tell the listening audience what Into the Runout actually means?
I will, but I feel like I need to do a little show and tell also. So I'm going to go off script a little bit. I'm going to grab a record back here so I can better define what that means. Give me a second.
Go for it.
Hit the Jeopardy music.
Boop, 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 boop. Yes, folks. Yes, folks. I'll be here all week.
Who knows what this is? Anybody? Anybody know what this is?
It's a flying saucer.
Most of our subscribers are in their 40s and 50s, so I know they know what this is. I'm trying to bring in some new younger subscribers, and my son actually follows us on TikTok now, so
yeah,
that's promising, right?
That is. That's awesome.
Into the Runout. So me and Tony conceived this show's concept, but the name, of course, had to be unique, I thought. So we were trying to tie in music into the theme of the show and introduce it into the title. And as you can see behind me, I'm an avid vinyl collector, and Tony's always been an avid vinyl listener. So we both respect the medium. And if you look closely at a vinyl record, the section and you can see the grooves where the music is here. And then as it plays, it gets to the label, the inner label, and that blank spot right in there is technical term is called the runout. So that's where we get our name, and that's where we coined the phrase, when the music fades,
the discussion begins.
Exactly. The music fades, and then when it's quiet and you're done listening to the music, and you can talk about what you just heard. So that's kind of what we're doing, is filling in the blank spaces, filling in the empty grooves, and discussing the music. And since we don't own any of the copyrights to any of the music that we're talking about, that's why we don't play it. So we're after the music and in the runout.
Yes.
And
sometimes going into the runout takes a little bit longer, depending on the topic that we talk about. And then sometimes it's just a little bit of a smaller time, but we do the best we can to fill in that run-out time with some, final music sounds and to lively verbal
go-arounds.
Yeah.
We're not professionals. We're new to the podcast scene. We're both working guys supporting our wives and, in my case, my kids also.
Yes.
And we have day jobs and night jobs and in between jobs. And
Yes.
this is a hobby. And we're enjoying it. We're really getting to like what we're doing, and we get to spend time talking to each other once a week and catching up because, life gets in front of you and you don't have time to do that a lot with the people that are close to you, let alone the people that live, a couple states away from you. So I'm glad to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah, which is the case with us. We're actually a
Yep.
couple of states away from each other, and it's so funny because when I reached out to John about this idea in early July, my wife and I had just seen John and his wife just a couple weeks before we were passing through, coming from Chicago back down to the state where we live here, and it was good to see them because I literally hadn't seen the two of them in person since I was married back in 2019, and it was a wonderful reunion where we just picked up right where we left off, not realizing a couple weeks later I would be finally convinced in my mind to do something with this idea of
Yeah.
podcasting that I've been procrastinating about for so long. And John, like
Yeah.
the go-getter that he is, I handed him the baton and he just took off running. And
My problem is I have too much of a creative mind, so it runs away a lot, and then I think of things out of the box a lot, and then things get bigger than they started. My brain's like a gremlin. If you add water to it, it just goes nuts. So
we promise we won't feed you after midnight so you don't turn
Well,
into the
unfortunately, I feed myself after midnight, so it's too late on that one. Well, we're going to move on to our first segment, if that's okay with you. We're going to talk about this week in music history. Okay, starting off with September 25th, year 1980. Led Zeppelin unfortunately lost their drummer John Bonham, which is, at the time, he was probably the greatest drummer of his age and still ranks among, in my book, the top 10.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Him, Keith Moon, Ginger Baker, Ringo Starr, some of the greats, and Bonzo, without a doubt. And with his son now, carrying on his legacy quite well, but yeah, I mean, that was a guy who could just roll over them drums like nobody's business. I think one of the best examples of John Bonham's work was when they put the two little instrumental drum virtuoso performances together on the Led Zeppelin box set. They took segments of Moby Dick and Bonzo's Montreux and married it together, and it's a magnificent kind of not mashup but blend, and it kind of gives you the best of both those songs and how proficiently just incredible that John Bonham was.
Yeah, and with the drum kit that he had, it was, he stretched that drum kit as far as you could. Nowadays, and I don't know if Neil Peart started the massive drum kit that he always used. But
I was just thinking of Neil Peart amongst drummers. I was going to mention him, so I'm glad you did, because you're right, though. Nobody's drum set was more loaded and voluminous than Neil Peart's. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I mean, you go from a guy like I don't know if you remember Buddy Rich.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I mean, he probably had a tom, a snare, a cymbal, and the kicker. The bass kicker, and that's probably it. And he sounded like he had Neil Peart's drum set. And then Neil Peart had, the massive drum kit. And then, Bonzo, he made his standard drum kit sound like he was playing Neil Peart's. Like he stretched that thing as far as he could. And he was a very innovative drummer of his time.
Absolutely.
So we're going to move on to September 26th, 1969 is the year. And the Beatles released their 11th studio album, Abbey Road.
Yeah, we had the chance to talk about Abbey Road when we did our Beatles podcast. And yeah, it's a great album. And it was, it wound up not being the Beatles' quote official last album, because Let It Be was released afterward, but Let It Be was recorded.
Confusion. Yep.
Yeah, Let It Be was recorded before Abbey Road. So Abbey Road was officially the Beatles' last recorded album. And they really went out on a high note.
September 27th, the year 1986, another loss in music. Metallica lost their bass player, Cliff Burton. I don't know if you're familiar with Cliff. I think he was their second bass player.
Yeah.
But he died in the tour bus accident, unfortunately.
Yeah, Dry Ice, and
Yeah. Black Ice,
that was
Black Ice.
Black. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Black Ice. That was what that's what the bus driver claimed. But James Hetfield was saying, he was running around the grounds and saying, I don't see no black ice. I don't see no black ice. But a big loss though. But I mean, they were able to carry on with another player, and and Jason certainly carried the band through their heyday, where they went from emerging to the Black Album to the subsequent albums, and but yeah, Cliff Burton, though, a dynamite musician.
September 28th, 1972. Hey, that's a good year.
Hey, it is a good year.
Motown Records released the Temptations version of Papa Was a Rolling Stone.
Ooh.
Did you know that was originally recorded months earlier by label mates, the Undisputed Truth? Undisputed Truth,
yes.
I'm not familiar with them, are you?
I know them by name, but I really don't know them by song. But
okay. Well, that was one of theirs before the Temptations.
And
I'll have to listen to that version.
As a little side note, because I am a Motown enthusiast, and
we will be talking about Motown in further discussions.
Absolutely, sure. But the bass line of that song was played by the late great Bob Babbitt, who came into Motown as Stevie Wonder's bass player on his tour, his performances on the road, and Stevie brought Bob into the studio to record for him for the first time in the late 60s. And it came right at a time when James Jamerson, the Motown virtuoso bass player, who again we'll talk about at a later date because it's surrounded by this wonderful little music film that's now 20 some years old called Standing in the Shadows of Motown. But Bob was one of these guys who, came into music from Pittsburgh, where he was from, and he learned how to play bass by listening to the music on the radio and a specific channel that they called race music, where he got the chance to hear the good soul music that was being played, and he would play along with the bass, radio while his parents were asleep. But that bass line is truly a great bass line. And he also did the bass line to the Temptations' Ball of Confusion. But I mean, when you think about that bass line, it's just phenomenal. I mean, you say Papa Was a Rolling Stone, and it's like boom, 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 and wow.
You could pull every piece out of that song, every segmented recording part of that song, and you can tell what song that is.
Oh, absolutely. Name that tune.
The bass stands out for sure.
Oh, it stands out for sure. And another little side note about the song, the producer Norman Whitfield came up with the lyric "The 3rd of September," and when Dennis Edwards was presented with that lyric, it cut him to the quick, because he said, "Man, my father died on the 3rd of September." And he was a little apprehensive about singing it, but it flowed well, and it was so Dennis was able to give it a little bit of an additional emphasis based on the irony of the lyric.
September 29th, 1979. The Police. I love the Police. Got their first number one hit in the UK with Message in a Bottle.
Oh, yeah.
Good track.
Great track, great lyric. One of those, just tremendous songs, yeah.
And they also have an amazing drummer.
Oh, Gordon Sumner, absolutely.
He is also in my book.
I mean,
in the top 10.
Stuart Copeland. What am I saying? Gordon Sumner's Sting.
That's a secret,
right?
September 30th, 1978. One of my wife's favorites, John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John, topped the UK pop charts with Summer Nights.
Summer Night.
Their second number one from the Grease soundtrack. What was the
Yeah.
first? What was the first number one?
You're the One That I Want.
Boom. Ooh, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh.
I got chills. They're multiplying.
That was the first, well, tied with the first movie that I saw at the drive-in movie theater.
Oh.
Grease, and then I think, well, it's kind of mixed up in my brain. I saw Grease, the original Jaws, and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, at the drive-in, and I think it was Grease and Jaws was a double showing. So
yeah, that is correct, because that would have been about the same time.
right, and Wrath of Khan was in the 80s, I think.
Yeah, like
early 80s.
82.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great soundtrack by the late James Horner, and yeah, dynamite movie.
Ricardo Montalban.
Yep. Who revised the role that he had played in an episode called Space Seed, and they revived his character for this plot. The movie. What's interesting is William Shatner and Ricardo Montalban never shared the same screen. They were always speaking their line to a blank screen, because they were always looking at each other in the movie on the screen. You never got the chance to see them face to face.
Yeah. Last one, October 1st. We're moving into October. In 1982, John Cougar Mellencamp went number one on both U.S. and the singles charts with Jack and Diane.
Jack and Diane. A little ditty.
Ditty.
Yep. Never thought about sucking on a chili dog outside the Tasty Freeze, but hey, I would prefer a chocolate malt from the Tasty Freeze, but that was just me.
I wonder if October 1st, I'll look this up. I'm going to look this up. Don't dare me to look it up. October 1st has to be National Chili Dog Day.
You never know. You never know.
If it's not, I'm going to go talk to John, and we're going to make it happen. So that's it for this week in music history.
Yeah.
Now, we are moving along to some songs that I've listened to in the last week. And this is our next segment of Top Tracks of the Week.
Top tracks. Top tracks. Top tracks. Top tracks. Top tracks. Top tracks. Top tracks of the week.
Okay, we have 5 songs this week, and I'm going to read them off my little piece of paper here.
Yes, newsflash.
Newsflash.
Here is a Muppet newsflash.
Adrian Sherwood with a song called The Collapse of Everything. Off self-titled album, The Collapse of Everything. Adrian has 84,000 followers on Spotify. This song is an instrumental. It has a groovy sound to it, kind of in the likes of the band Sublime. It's got a ska feel to it, beachy, jazzy feeling. So it's a nice little groovy tune. Okay, so the second song on the list is a song called Taxambra, which is a German translation of Daybreak by the artist Stuzzi, which sounds Italian to me. But anyways, he has 141,000 followers. And to make it more complicated, he's out of Sweden. So it's basically a folk sounding, and it's an international song, so it is in German or Swedish, I believe. I don't know, but I'm a big follower of international songs in a foreign language because it gives a different perspective on music for sure, and definitely worth a listen to. Next song, my third song, is called My Time Ain't Long by a blues artist named Patrick Sweeney. 276,000 followers on Spotify, and he's out of your neck of the woods, Tony, in Nashville. His genre would be considered stomp blues, so more of a harder kind of boom, boom with the guitar.
Ooh, nice.
If you're familiar with the band Black Keys, sounds a lot like them, and he's also played with the Black Keys.
I literally
Also
just
with
drove some people last night that were going to see the Black Keys at a venue in Nashville just last night.
Yeah, are you a fan of Black Keys? Are you familiar with their music?
You know, I just became aware of the Black Keys just last night, so it's so apropos that you're talking about the Black Keys in reference to this Stop Blues artist. Now I'm going to have to really tune in and listen to the Black Keys.
And you should listen to Patrick Sweeney also.
Okay.
But Black Keys will give you definitely a feel of how he sounds also.
Nice.
But I've been following the Black Keys for a while, since they've been out. I do
outstanding.
like their earlier stuff better than their more recent stuff because it was a little more raw, as with everybody in the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my cup of tea. But they're still, they're a great band. Doesn't matter. But he's also played with the Tedeschi Trucks Band and the Wood Brothers, which I mentioned the Wood Brothers on a previous episode. They were also in our top tracks of the week too. So all blues guys, they love what they do and they're very good at what they do. So give them all a listen if you can. Next up is it's an artist called Paul Trudeau. A song called Tiny Little Jokes. He has 104, not 1,000 followers on Spotify, but 104, period, followers on Spotify. So that's going to blow up pretty soon. So I think we caught him right at the beginning of his launch. He's out of Massachusetts and actually went to the New England Conservatory of Music in Boston at the age of 11 years old.
Woo!
So this guy's good. And he's currently Billy Idol's keyboardist.
Whoa.
So now he's got his own solo stuff. And if you're familiar with the band Train, I'm not sure if you Tony, are familiar with the band Train.
I think I've heard that somewhere before.
Drops of Jupiter, early mid 2000s is when they kind of were big.
Yeah.
He sounds a lot like them. Just to give you some context, since we can't play his song on our show. And the last song of the week is Give It Time by the band Goose. And this is the one, Tony, I want you to give a listen to. They have 584,000 followers, so they are definitely on the way up. They have and I think I sent you this link, so it should be in your inbox if you want to take a listen to it. But they are a top-notch band. The keyboardist is amazing. He's like we talked about earlier. He has a Neil Peart drum kit version of a keyboard kit. He's got keyboards on 3 sides of him. He's really good with the fingers. The drummer's amazing. The lead singer and guitarist is also great. They're a great sounding band, and it's one of those songs. And I'm kind of biased towards songs that kind of start off slow and then build and just explode at the end. So that's this type of song. And they actually have an 18-minute version on YouTube, which is what I sent you a link of.
All right.
And then when I was browsing around, I noticed they had another video on let's see what it's called. It's called Nugs, NUGS.net. So they have a lot of live videos on there of their performances. And then I saw one that was titled featuring Bruce Hornsby. So they did a version of The Way It Is with Bruce Hornsby, and he came up on stage and played with the band. So you got to give that one a listen to also.
Nice.
It was an amazing live performance.
Oh.
And Goose's keyboardist just kind of stood back just off to the side and just was like,
let the master do his thing.
He was beside himself, as he should be.
I'm sure when Bruce Hornsby was just, making waves in the late 80s with the Range, and then he got the opportunity to perform with the Grateful Dead, I'm sure that, those experiences of being able to play with truly upper tier musicians, he never forgot. So, giving bands an opportunity to play with him has got to be just a joy.
Yep, for sure. So that's it for Top Tracks of the Week.
Top Tracks of the Week.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about our featured album of the week. This week is by a band no other than Boston, and their debut album, also Boston. This song is basically a greatest hits album on the go, right out of the gate. You really can't do any better than this one.
No, you can't. And, it's an album that, over time has taken on levels of legend because we've learned more about not only its origins, but how the album was truly recorded, truly mastered, and truly put out. It was just the the technical musical wizardry of the founding guitarist Tom Scholz and his vision for being able to create an album that literally came out of his basement.
Literally.
And literally his basement studio. And apart from the last track on the album, Let Me Take You Home Tonight, was pretty much every part of that album was played by him and contributed, of course, by, Boston's late, great vocalist, the legendary Brad Delp. And on Rock and Roll Band, as it says here, Jim Mazdia played the drums on Rock and Roll Band. But other than that, it was the last track, Let Me Take You Home Tonight, where the remaining members, Barry Goudreau, Fran Sheehan, and Sebastian, joined Tom and Brad in the studio to record Let Me Take You Home Tonight. But a remarkable album from start to finish. I know for us, I think I could speak for me for sure. The only Boston song I remember hearing growing up, and I don't remember the year, of course, was More Than a Feeling. But it wasn't until our high school years when I broadened my musical interests and started to dive into the Chicago radio stations, the Loop FM, the WLUP, the Loop FM 97.9, and
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, and WCKG 105.9, rest in peace. But it was on those stations in Chicago where truly was my introduction into everything classic rock, and where I was literally introduced to every single one of those songs off the Boston album after More Than a Feeling. And it was a baptism into something glorious.
Just to put in a little plug too, 97.1 The Drive is carrying the ball for everybody in Chicago now.
Yes.
So that's all Chicago has left as far as classic rock goes. But good stuff. And of course they play plenty of Boston on that channel.
Yes, and speaking of, I showed you the back of the album, the front of the album. Here is the back of the album and the band, and of course the iconic dialogue that is designed to tell you the story of Boston and how they came to pass. And there was a bit of
can you go back to that? Can you show that to us again?
Sure, absolutely.
Didn't you have a haircut like that in high school?
Well, yes, there were moments where my hair could get poofy in kind of that vein, but no, I never manned a Sebastian John Panazzo hairdo to that length. No, but yes, there was a particular classmate of ours in homeroom who used to rib me endlessly about my hair, and
I don't mean to bring up a sore subject, so I'll put myself under the bus too. I had wild hair in high school too, and then I think senior year I just loaded it up with hairspray and I had like a helmet hair. And then now I just let it do whatever it wants. So my hair isn't any better than yours.
No, but I'll tell you a funny story about hair. When the pandemic happened in March 13th of 2020, and we entered into that auspicious, infamous time of lockdown for that 2-month period, I had just been with the wife up in Chicagoland visiting my mother, who was just going through her little breast cancer episode, which she beat and defeated. Good. And is living
Thank
now
God.
on healthier than ever. But
Thank
we
God.
went up there to pay her a little visit to kind of cheer her up and surprise her and bring her a pizza. But on the way down, on the way up, my plan was to stop and get a haircut because I had been about 2 months since the previous haircut. So long story short, all the salons, of course, were shut down during that 2-month period. So by the time I got to month 4, my hair was taking on a Bob Ross look. And literally, I have these funny side-by-side pictures of Bob Ross and me. So when my wife was shopping later on that year, she found the funniest Bob Ross ornament for the tree. And while I wasn't with her that day, I wish I had been a fly on the wall, because when she saw the Bob Ross ornament, she just busted out laughing and giggling endlessly, thinking of me and the Bob Ross references.
And then you started painting happy little trees.
Yes, let's paint some trees. Let's paint some clouds. Absolutely. So
more than a feeling.
That's yeah, more than a feeling. Tell me about it.
I mean, that's the signature song of the album for sure. Just an anthem of a song. The ultimate anthem of the song is Foreplay Long Time for me.
Yeah, I mean, Foreplay Long Time, absolutely incredible. Foreplay is just this amazing organ introduction, and then it rolls into just this roaring, fierce, just blazing guitar that just keeps rolling, and the crashing of the drums, and lead into a fabulous song where Tom Scholz, draws us in with this amazing little guitar riff, and then into Brad Delp's soaring voice, and just a gem of a song, a great lyric, a great rocking song. And it's a staple. Every time we listen to it, it's like we get swept away.
Yeah, Foreplay Long Time is kind of a personal song for me too, and it did leave a good impression on me from the moment I heard it up until the moment that I went on the first date with my wife. I may have told her this story, so I'm just going to say it now on the podcast, and she'll hear it later, I'm sure. But we went on our first date, and there's a whole story before that too that I could tell on another show. But basically, after the date, I had got in the car to go home, and that's the song that I had in my head and put on and blasted it as loud as the car radio would go. It's been such a long time that I felt that happy, and it's just been that way ever since. And I don't know why, but that was the song that stuck in my head to put on.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
And again, that's the power of a good song, a song that invokes within you a feeling of something, meaningful, memorable, powerful. And I'm sure as Tom was thinking about those lyrics, like where other artists that we've talked about, they're the type of musicians who understand the magic of music and the magic of a lyric. It's to make a connection with the human heart and the human soul that identifies with it. And yeah, we love it.
I'm just noticing I got a notification on my computer that my dad just shared one of our videos on YouTube.
Hey, way to go, Jerry.
I didn't know my dad was on YouTube, but thanks.
Hey, well, hello there, Jerry. Thank you for sharing, man. We love you.
Actually, I did know my dad was on YouTube because he has YouTube TV, and he's on YouTube all the time looking at videos on how to fix things and do things on his computer. So I didn't know he was on YouTube, but I'm glad he's following us. Now he's going to learn everything he needs to know about music.
Yeah. I'm sure he could tell you a few things about the music of his youth. It's just probably, the songs that he sang to your mom as they were dating. I'm sure those were some great memories.
I don't know if my dad sings. My dad's was a huge Dylan fan, so I have a lot of his original records that. Oh, well, I don't know if he knows that I have them, but now he does, I guess. I'm keeping him safe.
That's it. It was kind of like with my dad's architecture books before he passed away. I borrowed them. And when he did pass away, then of course I took permanent occupancy of them because they just, they were just wonderful, extensions of who he was. And so every time I read them, he's constantly here. So I love that.
That's good.
But now, as we segue back into the Boston album, I gotta say, of all the songs on the album, and every one of them are great, though, the one that revs me up, the one that fires me up, the one that makes me want to turn the radio up to the highest decibel when I'm driving along the road, of course, is the song Peace of Mind. It's a song, frankly, that is sad that it never got released as a single, that it never got the kind of radio airplay that it should have received in its heyday. But thanks to the magic of radio, classic rock radio, that's dedicated to the exposing and the preservation of great music, that song has become just as synonymous with Boston as any of the other great songs. And it's one of those songs that just takes you right in. It starts out with this amazing little acoustic introduction, and then into Tom Scholz' thunderous guitar and Brad Delp's vocals, in which, wow, just again, like with every Boston song, you just get pulled right in to it. But it's a great lyric. It's a great sound. The sound of the drums, the sound of that wailing sound effect off the guitar, just everything about it. And his guitar solo, and just the whole song is just remarkable. And it's one of my all-time favorite songs in general, not just Boston.
Yeah, I have 2 albums that I produced myself from a closet in my basement. And this album was in my head the whole time because I knew it was possible to make something, from a smaller confine, not a professional studio, and to get the sound from a song of like Peace of Mind to come out of a basement. Like, how do you do that? How is that possible? That opening guitar is just so clean, and I don't know how that even happens.
Yeah, so
It just
clean.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, and the fact that there's no reverberations, there's no
No.
feedback, there's no fuzz.
I could just picture like comforters hanging from the ceiling and pillows stuffed in corners, and whatever they had to do.
Yeah, I mean, no feedback, no crinkles, no crackles, no fuzz, nothing. I mean, just pure, unadulterated, smooth, clear sound that just is literally and figuratively music to the ears. And it speaks of the technical genius that Tom Scholz was and is, an MIT graduate who was working at the time for Kodak, involved in all kinds of like secretive, top secret projects. And, so a man who was working a day job by night, working in his studio, putting together this album that took years to make. And in the midst of his various music connections, was able to assemble a band together that was willing to become Boston.
We're moving on to track 3, which is Foreplay Long Time, which we talked about a little bit. Do you have anything to add to that as far as your experience goes? Or you?
Yeah, the first time I heard it, it was just
it's an epic song, so yeah.
Yeah. Another epic song. I mean, and and I was learning about all these songs round about the same time because the Loop and LUP were playing those songs constantly. And it was like, and then, somewhere in that time frame, I don't know if it was Record Swap in Homewood or where it was where I actually picked up my vinyl copy, but it was definitely in on our high school years because, it was definitely a part of my library. I was determined that was going to be on my turntable and not just when the radio decided to play the songs.
Yeah, you decided to take control.
Yeah,
because back in the day, you had to wait for the radio station to tell you what to listen to unless you own the record.
Yeah. And at least the Loop was way better at, identifying the artists, because that was one of the big frustrating things of most of the radio stations in the 80s around, at least where we were in Chicago. They would play the songs, and they may have been songs from the 70s, but never, or if rarely, did they ever say who was the artist.
That's what turned us on to better radio stations like CKG, like the Loop, where they would have, seasoned DJs that knew everything, and would give you little nuggets of information that would make your knowledge rise above the average listener. I think that's also why Casey Kasem was a huge success, because he always had a story. Not with every song, but he always had a story with most of the songs, and stories you wouldn't hear from anybody else. And he put a lot of effort into his shows. Whether it was, whether he had help or not, I don't know, but that was his, not mystique, but that was just his approach to music, is giving you context and a story to a song to bring you closer to that song, instead of just putting something in your ear and, you forget about it later.
No, absolutely. No, and that's a great thing you use Casey Kasem, because that's a magnificent analogy and connection, because really Casey helped connect us to a lot of the songs of that era that we weren't learning from anywhere else, unless you went and bought like a book, which
Exactly.
your library had several of them. The Billboard book of #1 songs, where you started to learn more and more about the artists and the bands that made up those songs. And I remember reading that book off your bookshelf endlessly when I would spend time in your bedroom listening to music. That book still remains in my mind, so vivid still, in the memories of just the years and the songs.
Yeah, and
Just
the Penguin Encyclopedia of Music, that was the big one too.
oh, without a doubt.
That's because you could cross-reference what you were looking at and then see who else was involved with that song, whether it be producer, writer, or someone who played an instrument in the song. So you can cross-reference and find out how all these people, intermingled and mixed together as far as the music went.
Yeah, but we were talking about, how the radio stations that we would listen to in our high school years, would expound on those things, because
Yeah.
before, you wouldn't know enough about the artist to even know, their name, much as less, their identity. Like, because the radio station would never tell me who sang Lido Shuffle, I was under the assumption for a decade or more that Boz Scaggs was black and not white, because his voice was so soulful and so just, he just had that thing.
Yeah, the Elvis effect. That's what happened back in the day with Elvis too. But I mean, you hear people like Michael McDonald in the singing background for multiple bands and multiple groups.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that, and all you have to go off of back in the day is you're listening to the song and you're like, that sounds familiar. I've heard that guy's voice before.
Right.
But a book like, the Penguin Encyclopedia of Music would help you along with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And thank God, though, we have all those resources still out there.
Or if you have friends like Tony who reads the liner notes back and forth, like the Bible, he has it up here. You don't need a book. You don't need Wikipedia.
Yeah, well, I wish I could say that for everything. If I had that, I would have been a Rhodes Scholar.
I have a compliment off of someone's critique of you online. Also, we had our first negative comment on YouTube.
Oh no.
Not really negative, and it was about you. It was about the show in general. We were talking about Billy Joel.
Yeah.
And they were saying, yeah, we've all seen the documentary. We don't need you to regurgitate what they said.
Oh, jeez.
So I said, that's funny because Tony hasn't watched the documentary.
Oh, well.
It's all up here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
he's not regurgitating anything.
No, I mean, and that's the whole purpose of the show. I mean, we try to go off just our knowledge of the musicians that we talk about, and and if there is any regurgitating, it's only because it was a really good segment of something, and
and not everybody's seen or heard everything, so we're just kind of passing it along and giving.
But I'll take
our perspective.
I'll take the critique for what it is, because when our listening and viewing public has thoughts to offer, and we're always open to be better purveyors of this medium that we're kind of navigating through.
And it wasn't somebody we know; it was just some a random person that viewed our video. So I appreciate the view.
Yeah, please.
And we're getting out there. We're getting out there. So keep reviewing us and giving us.
Please come back. Please listen, and please offer any more observations. And,
we're up for constructive criticism for sure.
And and if you feel like we're doing less regurgitating, do notate that, so that we know that we're improving in that department. Because
we're listening to you.
Yeah, we are. We have listening ears.
We do.
And that's why we love talking about music, because our listening ears heard a lot. And we heard a lot on this Boston album. I mean, when you think about just the second side, I mean, it starts with, picks right up where Foreplay Long Time, ended, and it picks right up on side 2 with Rock and Roll Band. and, and it tells an interesting story, and it gives us a driving beat, and great performance, great vocals, great lyric.
What appears to be a self-reflective song, if I'm not mistaken, a song I would assume is them writing about themselves. I'm not quite sure what the context of the song is, but I know there was quite a few bands in the late 70s that kind of did a similar thing.
You wonder to what degree that was, or if Tom was just, maybe writing it about bands, because I mean, obviously he was an aspiring musician, and I'm sure he crisscrossed with a lot of different bands. I mean, the back liner notes is still funny, and it said, if you're looking for someone to tell you that the band in question is composed of nearly notable former members of various bands, or how many jam sessions the drummer sat in on with rock superstars who are now dead or disabled or retired, forget it. Unless the names Mother's Milk, Middle Earth, or Revolting Tones Review ring any particular bells, where the people who make up this band called Boston come from is irrelevant to who and where they are now. Listen to the record.
The great Oz has spoken.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I love those notes on the back of the album, because it's like, they're kind of telling the listening audience, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're about, this is a lot to tell you about, but listen to the record.
See, you don't get that information from streaming your music. You don't have a place to go to read the liner notes to see the band's perspective of what they're putting out there. You only get what Wikipedia tells you, which is often or not fan-based information put on there. So
yeah, it's a perspective, but yeah, it's so much better when you actually get the information right from the source. And yeah, nothing beats the source.
And what a source!
Absolutely. So after
smoking source.
Yes, a smoking source. Absolutely. And I would certainly say you want to talk about a great keyboard solo. I mean, we know John Lord threw it down in spades on songs like Highway Star from Deep Purple, a band which we'll, of course, talk about down the road in some shape or form. But, the keyboard solo on Smokin' is smokin'.
Yeah, I wish a lot of bands, like cover bands that you hear, at bars or where, if you go out and hear cover bands play, I wish bands would cover this song more often.
Yes.
Instead of sticking to the staple cover songs. Because if you can play this song either live or recorded, then you're definitely worth listening to. Because I mean, the guitar solos, the keyboard solos. I mean, this is just a rock and roll song.
It is. It is an absolute rock and roll song. And again, I mean, Brad Delp's voice just stunning. I mean, there are individuals in music history, rock history, pop history that, can be looked upon as memorable singers. But to me, Brad Delp has to be, if not in the top 10, at least in the top 20 of just memorable, powerful, amazing vocalists.
And that's I think a future show episode, ranking top vocals, male, female, ranking top guitarists, top drummers. But he's got to be, in my book, he's in a top 10 also. He's the voice glues it all together, brings it all together. You could have the greatest guitar player and drummer in the world, and then your lead singer comes out and blows it. Can't hold a tune.
Yeah.
It ruins it for everybody. I mean, everybody's got to work together, and he definitely ties it all together.
Yep. Then we have, after Smokin' comes
Hitchhiking.
Yeah.
I'm hitchhiking.
Hitchhiking.
I need a ride. Hitch a ride.
But yeah, great acoustic introduction and into a more of a mellow, kind of slower paced song, but a song that has, once again, a great little keyboard solo in the midst of all of it.
Little guitar solo in there too.
Little guitar solo in it.
Yep.
Not
overpowering, but just enough.
Just enough. Absolutely enough. But then definitely finishes with this just blistering guitar solo again. Just Tom Scholz just showing us how it's done and taking us right to the very end with this beautiful acoustic conclusion. and then you're rolling, through to another classic.
Yeah, and I kind of see it as a prelude to rock and roll band, kind of a more slower approach to rock and roll band. It kind of ties in with that song, I think.
Yeah, I would
I get that
agree.
feeling.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Then we roll into Something About You, which again is another little bit more revved up. It almost kind of sounds in the same vein of Peace of Mind, but still carrying that same high energy rock sound, blaring guitar riffs, and right once again into Brad's just stunningly just powerful voice, taking us right into something else again with blended vocals and just incredible musical sensibilities on Tom Scholz's part yet again.
All right, we're on the last track here.
Yep, and this is now where the band is assembled and they're in the studio, and Epic Records thinks that the band has already done all these recordings, when in fact, this is the one and only where the five actually come together and perform a wonderful concluding song called Let Me Take You Home Tonight.
That's definitely a rocker. Let Me Take You
Yeah.
Home Tonight. The whole album, I think the tracks were laid out with thought and process. Like, this is the only way this set list is the only way to end the album.
Yeah, it really is. I think Tom Scholz understood continuity as well as any player, producer, arranger could possibly envision. A good album when the continuity is intact.
And I think it's a harder and different approach as opposed to something like, I can only think of maybe like The Wall or Dark Side of the Moon, where it's kind of a concept album.
Yeah.
Where things purposely flow together, but they have just a set of songs that don't naturally mean anything to each other. To be able to organize it in the right order is a talent in itself.
It is, because you're dealing with tempo, you're dealing with content, you're dealing with mood, you're dealing with, just different dynamics that what makes a song and not having too much repetition of, high volume or low volume or whatever.
And I don't know if you remember my little cassettes. I had a whole series of cassettes called The Best of the Best. And then we had a mutual friend, Joe. You remember Joe, of course.
Of course.
So,
hey, Joe, where are you going with a gun in your hand?
I would borrow, I had my own set of CDs, and then I would borrow his CDs and then make compilation, cassettes, recordings of that. And one of my biggest things was to arrange those songs as if it was going to be an album. So I would put a great opener and then have all the fill-ins in the middle and a great ending song. And I always modeled it off of this album, off the Boston album, because I just feel that album was arranged perfectly the way the songs are arranged on the album.
Yes. I think of the cassette days. I think my cassette compilation reached about 60, and I unearthed the big stack from my mom's basement and transported it with me to Tennessee.
And you still have a cassette player?
I might have to get together. I might have to get together with you and see what you could possibly hook me up with.
We'll test it out and clean up the tape heads and see what happens.
Yeah. But yeah,
one of those, and some rubbing alcohol. We're good to go.
That's it. The lost art of music that so many today just don't know what we had, from the 8-track to the vinyl to the cassette to the now almost obsolete CD. We've seen music in all of its journeys.
Well, what's not obsolete is this amazing album, Boston, by the band Boston, and not much more to say about it. I definitely had a great time talking about the album, and gonna have to go pick me up a copy of it on vinyl because I don't have it, and you have it, and I can't reach to the camera and grab it, so I got to get my own.
Yeah, get your own copy.
And you get your own too, viewers.
Yeah,
you get your own.
Absolutely, viewers, go get your own. I mean, it is an album. If you've never listened to it from start to finish, it's truly one of the landmark albums and a debut. So, I mean, when you think about Led Zeppelin 1, when you think about the Chicago Transit Authority, when you think about, first go-arounds for a band. I mean, you can't get too much better than Boston's debut, and for them, nothing can ever came close from the band than the debut album, and it remains a landmark achievement, not just in rock and roll music, but I would argue in music in general, because it just showcased what an artist can do with the ability to record and
innovation.
I mean, I don't think Boston is
motivation.
Innovation.
Yep.
Yeah. And hopefully one day the Boston will get much more acknowledgement from the wider, community, because the album is phenomenal. And it
definitely is.
It's one that's timeless and we'll never get tired of listening to, ever.
Nope. And that about wraps it up for us here on the Boston album. I had a pleasure talking with you, Tony. Don't forget to, always. So don't forget to follow us on all social media, TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram. And then you can listen to us on Spotify, as always. We're also now on Amazon Music, a.k.a. Audible. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio.
Wow.
And, come on, Tony. We're everywhere. You can't avoid us.
We've been everywhere, man. Seen just everything, man.
And then if you want to see our beautiful faces, go check us out on YouTube, because that's the only place you can view the podcast.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And there's a lot to see in these faces.
So lot to see. We have shorts to kind of summarize what we're doing. We have a blooper occasionally. So it's a good time over on YouTube. So check us out.
And shorts that we're wearing.
I'm not wearing any shorts.
Get with the program. It's still summer, man.
Remember, until next time, we'll see you next time, where the music fades,
the discussion begins.
See you on side 2.
See ya.